The parents readily admitted this in their interviews in Dagestan. So what do we do then? The Russians alerted us to this.
Well, he wasn't tracked to Russia. I assume that in 2012, no one was tracking him when he returned, and if he visited Chechnya, what he was doing there. It doesn't sound like anyone was tracking him there, and if you had that red flag raised, I think you do have to question why wasn't he followed up?
Well, what this tells you is you need a long-term strategy for terrorism. What happened the other day in Boston, unfortunately, is not the exception. This is not a one-off. This is a glimpse of the future. This is granular terrorism that 1, 2, 3 people can carry out. We live in a world where power is diffused, where individuals are in turn empowered. So you don't need to do something on the scale of 9/11. That turns out to be much less difficult for us to find out about because there's so many people involved and there's so many traces.
And the senator pointed, thankfully, it was an extremely crude operation. I mean, this bomb was so crude, thank God, that even people standing right next to the little boy who died were relatively unscathed. And so if he was in fact trained in Dagestan or Chechnya, as the supposition is now, and it's entirely supposition, it wasn't high-level.
Yet they did have a lot. They did have other weaponry. We found out later, and some other bombs were discovered as well. But to get to the point that Richard Haass was just talking about, Senator, what do you do though if no connection to a specific group is found? Instead, we just find that these young men were inspired by Al-Qaeda, but not directed. That's almost impossible to find.
Well, it is, and that's the reality of the world we're now living in, because we not only face terrorism from abroad that is planned and coordinated, we face these lone wolves or these brothers or whoever gathers together that has a vengeance or has a demented mind or who has been kind of radicalized over the internet or through a mosque or whatever. We're going to continue to have to understand that this is a threat to America also, but that's why we all need to be engaged in not only looking out for this type of thing, but helping identify and see whether these loners, is there a kid in the classroom that's just, something happening?
He wasn't a loner. He wasn't.
Well, that's true. You're not going to stop every one of these, that's for sure.
But the notion is unless you get the public buy-in, the public absolutely has to understand that to address this nexus to terrorism, they will have to participate. If they see something out of the ordinary, they're going to absolutely